help the overweight child eat well without harming their emotional well-being. Most of us think about changing their diet, but this can get out of hand, resulting in food restriction, dieting, and other tactics that may backfire in the future. There are many ways to help the overweight child, including increasing their physical activity, working on sleep and screen habits, and of course, improving nutrition. In this video, I'm outlining a few easy nutrition changes that will help your larger bodied child eat better. Before we get going though, if this channel means something to you, make sure you follow it, like this video, and drop a comment in the comment section. Number one, some nutrients are way more filling than others, and you need to know about these nutrients. What am I talking about? Protein, fiber, and fat. Protein is a filling nutrient. I've talked about this nutrient on this channel before. It increases the thermic effect of food, meaning that it increases the amount of energy burned after eating, especially if you're eating animal-based proteins like dairy foods or meat. This increase in body temperature is interpreted by the body or by the mind as fullness. Protein is also slower to digest. It sits in the tummy longer and it lingers there. And it also encourages the release of gut hormones that cue fullness. So protein is a really powerful filling nutrient. Fiber is the second one. Now, fiber bulks up the food that you eat. It can thicken it or gel it in the stomach, and this can cause that sensation of fullness. It also slows down digestion and the emptying of the stomach. So again, fiber is another nutrient that helps your child feel full. When we combine protein, fiber, and fat, it's almost magical. Studies show that in combination, these three cue fullness, slow down digestion, and keep your child fuller longer. There's also some research that suggests in combination, these three help steady blood sugar, so keeping it nice and even, and helps your child be more aware of that sensation of fullness, or what we call satiety awareness. So how can we make this practical? I have a couple of easy tips for you. Number one, when planning your meals or your snacks, think about the protein food first. What are you going to include in that snack or in that meal that is going to be a source of protein, whether it be animal-based or plant-based? It doesn't matter. Pick the protein first. Secondly, add a fiber-containing food. So what are those foods? We're talking about whole grains, like a whole grain cereal or a whole grain roll or bagel, for example. We're also talking about fruits and vegetables. Those are full of fiber. And again, add bulk to the meal, which is going to translate into fullness and slower digestion. And of course, I'm a big one around this idea when you're planning meals that you try to include at least 4 of the main 5 food groups at mealtime and 2 of the main 5 food groups at snack time. Number 2, start with age-appropriate portions. So I like to call these starter portions. They are the sort of recommended portion size or serving size for children based on their age. So they're age appropriate. So we're not going to give a cup of milk to a young toddler. That's too large of a portion size for them. So for example, for a toddler, when we're talking about dairy or milk or non-dairy substitutes, we're talking about a half a cup or even less, maybe a third of a cup if it's a really young toddler. We are talking about, when we think about grains and vegetables and fruits, we're talking about a tablespoon per year of age. So if you have a 2-year-old, 2 tablespoons of veggies. Maybe you're serving corn or peas, or 2 tablespoons of blueberries. So if you have a 4-year-old, you would start with 4 tablespoons of a fruit or a vegetable or a whole grain or a protein source. And that actually can be 4 tablespoons is the equivalent of a quarter of a cup for a 4-year-old to start out with. Now, when we're talking about older children, a cup of milk for a child, I know this is not a liquid measuring, but they're approximately the same. A cup of milk is a starter portion. It's the same for a teenager also, 1 cup. If we're talking about fruits and vegetables, it's a half a cup for a child and a full cup for a teenager, a child over 13. And when we talk about um, meats, protein sources, beans, things like that, 2 tablespoons is about an ounce. And generally in a child, we want to start with 2 or 3 ounces. So anywhere from 4 to 6 tablespoons, or a quarter of a cup to a third of a cup. And for a teenager's 3 to 4 ounces of protein. When we get up to 3 and 4 ounces of protein, you can basically take your hand and look at the palm of your hand, and that's about 3 to 4 ounces for a child to start with a protein source. Now, even easier tip for you when we're talking about starter portions and getting the portions right, for younger children, you can use a salad plate as the main meal plate. This is good for elementary and younger children. And then when kids get older, you can graduate up to a dinner plate. So like a 10-inch regular dinner plate for middle and high school kids. That kind of naturally keeps the portions in the right place, and it's a lot easier than actually measuring things out. For snacks, you can use a saucer. So cup and saucer. The saucer is that smaller plate, and that's a good place to start with snack time. It keeps, again, the portions in a reasonable place and allows you to get at least 2 food groups on that plate for a snack. Okay, number 3, you can make snacks healthier with simple swaps. These, again, are small, short, easy tips so that you can help the larger bodied child or the overweight child eat well. So, snack time is a good time to bring in fruits and vegetables. For example, a hummus plate, where you might have a little pile of hummus in the middle and surround it with different vegetables. Or you might do a fruit plate and in the center have a vanilla flavored uh, Greek yogurt dip for them to use. You can make other swaps, like instead of chips, try popcorn. Why? Popcorn's much higher in fiber. Again, remember that filling nutrient. Instead of cheesy crackers, you might try a whole grain cracker like Triscuits with a slice or a couple slices of cheese. Why? Again, we're offering more fiber and we're offering more protein. These are foods that are going to help children stay fuller longer and help them get to the next meal without asking you for snacks all day long. Instead of fishy crackers, you can try cashews and dried cranberries. Again, more protein, more fiber, and you're offering healthy fats when you offer nuts. Another tip, don't serve the same snacks every day. Try to switch it up. Use snack time as an opportunity to change things, to tackle those foods that your child might not be getting during the day. For example, if they start the day and they don't have any fruits and vegetables, you can use snack time to start to pull those foods in so they get a better variety and overall nutrition in their diet. Number 4, my 4th tip is that some foods will need more monitoring and strategizing. So, what am I talking about? I am talking about sweets and fried foods. These foods, while they are so tasty, they are not that rich in nutrients, and they certainly don't have those filling nutrients we talked about earlier, protein and fiber. So, sweets are okay to have. I have nothing against sweets. I pretty much have a sweet every day of my life, and my kids always did too. It's not about how much. Well, it is about how much, but what's really about is how these sweets fit in the overall balance of the diet. Multiple sweets each day probably isn't going to work out in the long run for your child in terms of their overall health. A sweet treat once a day, this will be okay for many kids, especially if they're active each day. So you need to find the sweet spot Some families offer treats every day, others only offer them on the weekends. I don't advise that you follow a no sweets policy because that can cause other issues in children. It can cause them to feel like they're scarce or forbidden and start to seek them out more frequently and sneak them. If your child is overly focused on sweets or can't control themselves around sweets, I want you to think about how frequently they're getting them and whether that you have a strategy around them and you're monitoring them day to day. Fried foods, again, French fries, potato chips, tortilla style chips. These are higher in fat but poor in other nutrients. Again, you're going to strike a balance here. You don't have to eliminate these altogether, but you can use them as a side dish in a starter portion. Combine those fried foods with other nutritious foods like fruits and vegetables or whole grains or lean sources of protein. This is the way to sort of navigate these foods that need more monitoring and more strategizing, especially if you find that these are foods that your larger body child are more drawn to. These are the foods you're going to have to pay more attention to. Now, I do have a printable for you that's free for you to download. I will include it in the description. It's basically a graphic icon of how to balance all those nutritious, high fiber, high protein foods with sweets and treats. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.